I took care of my girlfriend Zoe for 7 years, and loved her for 7 years. Yet, she fell in love with a penniless guy at university. To be with him, to force me into breaking up with her. She ruined my mother's birthday party, fully aware of her congenital heart condition, and deliberately provoked her until she fainted. She said I knew nothing about love, that what I felt for her was merely possessiveness coupled with meaningless material indulgence. I agreed to break up, wishing her happiness in finding true love. She gleefully moved into that poor guy's cramped apartment in the city's shabby district. Yet before 3 months had passed, she regretted it, kneeling before me and begging to return. 1. Today is my mother's 50th birthday party. All the guests have arrived, except for my girlfriend Zoe. I called her once, but she didn't answer. Feeling uneasy, I called again. This time she picked up. But Zoe's voice on the phone was impatient. Ethan Shaw, why the rush? I'm not going anywhere. I was about to speak when the line went dead, leaving only the monotonous buzz of the dial tone. At 8 p.m., Zoe finally arrived, fashionably late. Yet, when I saw her, I couldn't help but feel happy and immediately called out to her at the door. Zoe, why are you only coming now? As I spoke, my gaze landed on a man beside her, their fingers tightly interlaced, intimate beyond measure. My heart skipped a beat as I scrutinized the man's appearance. Ordinary looking, with a bit of a rogue vibe, didn't seem much like a decent sort. Out of politeness, I nodded at him anyway, just about to ask Zoe. She had already passed me by, pulling that man toward the living room of our family mansion as if she were the lady of the house. Inside, the housekeeper Mrs. Peterson came out to greet us and said, Miss Zoe, you're finally back. The mistress has asked about you several times. Go change your clothes quickly. Before Mrs. Peterson could finish, Zoe suddenly darkened her expression and snapped coldly, Who do you think you are, daring to address me like that? Don't forget you're just a paid servant, show some respect. Following close behind Zoe, I immediately rebuked, Zoe, what nonsense are you spouting? Apologized to Mrs. Peterson at once. I simply assumed Zoe must have encountered some unpleasantness outside that made her lash out with such insulting words without thinking. So after scolding Zoe, I apologized again to Mrs. Peterson. Mrs. Peterson quickly responded, It's all right, it's enough that Miss Zoe has returned safely. Go change your clothes now. Then occurred something I could never have imagined even in my wildest dreams. Zoe suddenly stepped forward and slapped Mrs. Peterson hard across the face. A servant, a traitorous wretch, how dare you demand an apology from me? Zoe pointed at Mrs. Peterson and raged, Remember your place. Who gave you the right to lecture me? Zoe had struck with such force that Mrs. Peterson's cheek immediately swelled red, a trickle of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. Stunned by the blow, Mrs. Peterson clutched her burning cheek, utterly speechless. And I was stunned too for a fleeting moment. I even questioned whether this person could truly be Zoe. Was she possessed? 7 years ago, on a night of torrential rain, Zoe's gravely ill mother brought her to our doorstep, kneeling in the downpour to beg my mother to take in the then 15-year-old girl. After that, Zoe moved in with us. My mother wasn't in the best health, and I was always busy with work. For these past 7 years, it was Madame Peterson who cared for her, treating her like her own daughter with unwavering devotion. For 7 years, she had called her Miss Zoe, and Zoe had never once shown any dissatisfaction. Yet today, in front of everyone, she had the audacity to slap Mrs. Peterson across the face. Zoe, what are you doing? I snapped. Have you lost your mind? My mom and the others heard the commotion and rushed over. But this was only the first step of Zoe's madness. Next, she actually pulled out a microphone from her bag and announced loudly, Everyone, I have an important announcement today. I, Zoe, am breaking up with Ethan Shaw. The many guests present were stunned speechless, because everyone knew that years ago, Zoe's mother had entrusted her to me on her deathbed. My mother hadn't fully approved at first, but 7 years ago, I was still young and impulsive, perhaps driven by protective instincts toward the vulnerable, or perhaps because Zoe perfectly matched my aesthetic preferences. It was love at first sight for me, and so I accepted this promise. I'm a stubborn person by nature. Since I've made this commitment, I'll naturally devote myself wholeheartedly to being good to her. Over these 7 years, I've hacked my way through the business world, fulfilling almost every material desire Zoe could have without question. She also enjoys calling me Ethan in that familiar way. Everyone envied us. Zoe, what foolishness are you up to? I called out urgently. As I spoke, my gaze landed on the man wearing jeans, hands tucked in his pockets, wearing a look that clearly said he was enjoying the show. I knew in my heart that this was undoubtedly the reason Zoe had resorted to such madness. Zoe, who is he? I asked, pointing at the man. Zoe rushed over and shoved me away violently, shouting, Ethan Shaw, what do you think you're doing? I won't let you hurt Leo. Leo? Ethan Shaw, I'm here today to tell you right to your face I, Zoe, am not some future daughter-in-law your Shaw family has been raising. With that, she darted over to my mother, tilting her head up defiantly and shouting, You old hag of the Shaw family, don't think I don't know what you did. You took advantage of our family's misfortune after my dad died and my mom fell ill, with no one to rely on, and forced my mom into promising me to that scumbag Ethan Shaw. My mother turned deathly pale, clutching her chest as if she might collapse any moment, unable to utter a single word in response. I quickly steadied my mother. Honestly, I had no idea what scumbag deeds I'd supposedly committed to deserve this kind of retribution. Beside me, Zoe's incessant voice continued. Ethan Shaw, I've had enough of you. Do you even realize how utterly revolting it is to be around you every single day? Besides throwing your money around to control me, what else can you actually do? Like a damn horny stray dog circling around me? The rest of her words were simply too vulgar to describe. I never imagined Zoe could say such words. Madam, Mrs. Peterson cried anxiously, young master, the madam has fainted. I turned around to see my mother pale as a sheet, having fainted from shock. Zoe, I agree to break up. Now get out, take your man with you. My gaze swept over that man. Over here, I quickly called the driver over while the guests scrambled to support my mother, preparing to take her to the hospital. But Zoe blocked the doorway and shouted, Ethan Shaw, you mustn't harass Leo, otherwise. My mother has congenital heart disease, and now, suddenly agitated, she fainted from distress. Everyone knows that heart disease isn't like other illnesses. Once it strikes, delayed medical attention can easily prove fatal. And Zoe, the woman I've taken care of for 7 years, loved for 7 years, actually stood at the door blocking my way to send my mother to the hospital, all for that so-called Leo of hers? Surely she knew that my mother has congenital heart disease and can least withstand any emotional shock. Well, aren't you going to say anything? Zoe pointed at me with her finger, shouting imperiously. Get lost, I roared, immediately calling the bodyguards to drag Zoe aside as I rushed my mother to the hospital. Fortunately, after emergency treatment at the hospital, my mother's condition stabilized, and she was out of danger. But just at that moment, Mrs. Peterson called me. Young master, if madam is all right, could you have Kevin keep an eye on her while you come back for a bit? What's wrong? I urgently asked. Miss Zoe. Mrs. Peterson paused at this point before continuing. Zoe has brought movers to take away all her things, and what's more, she's letting that man pick through your room as well. That man doesn't look like a decent fellow to me. The last sentence was clearly uttered by Mrs. Peterson in a lowered voice. Wait here, I'll be right back, I said urgently. By the time I drove back to my mansion, chaos had already erupted at home. Zoe was yelling at Mrs. Peterson. Mrs. Peterson, what do you mean? Why can't I take my own things? Does Ethan Shaw really need all those clothes and hundreds of watches? If you're not using them, what's the point of hogging all that space for nothing? Waste is shameful, it'll come back to bite you sooner or later. Leo, pick out what's useful. Don't you get it? Seeing me return, Zoe flushed crimson with rage and snapped, Ethan Shaw, is this your pathetic attempt to keep Leo and me apart? I'm telling you, Leo and I have true love between us. You have no idea how good he is to me. I stared at her coldly, as if looking at a complete stranger. Back at the hospital while my mother was in the emergency room, I'd made some phone calls to investigate. I learned about the man's background. Leo Carter is 1 year older than Zoe. I thought they were classmates, but they weren't. He attended a community college instead. As for how they met, the information I've gathered is that Leo approached Zoe first, pestering her persistently for her Instagram, then bombarding her daily with good morning and good night greetings. Leo didn't just come from an average family, he was outright poor, with a mother from the countryside who was crude and vulgar. His father was a compulsive gambler. The moment he had even a little money in his hands, he would spend it all without saving a single penny. So, the 3 members of Leo's family were always crammed into a government-subsidized apartment that was less than 50 square meters. I really don't know what kind of crazy idea got into Zoe's head that made her break up with me to chase after her so-called true love. Fine, if she really doesn't love me anymore and had discussed it with me privately, I could have accepted it. A forced melon won't be sweet. But she deliberately chose my mom's birthday party to make a scene and cause trouble. She knows perfectly well that my mom has a heart condition and can't handle stress. This could literally kill someone. Her intentions are unforgivable. Since she's determined to pursue her true love, then let her go. For thinking of this, I took a deep breath and said, Zoe, you can be with your Leo. You two are true love, I won't stand in your way. But back then, when your mother brought you to my home, apart from yourself, there was also $1 million debt, I continued. Everything on you belongs to the Shao family, everything this disgusting scum of a man provided for you. You can't take a single thing with you. Zoe was absolutely furious. She immediately threw the bag in her hand violently to the ground and shouted, I knew it. Ethan Shaw, you just want to use such despicable means to keep me imprisoned in your house. Fine, I don't want your things. I turned to go to my room, only to find that Leo had already turned it completely upside down. Many of the clothes in my walk-in closet were scattered across the floor. Leo had changed into my clothes from head to toe and was now eagerly trying to crack the password to my safe, his face flushed with excitement. He heard movement and, thinking it was Zoe, called out loudly, Zoe, do you know what Ethan Shaw's safe combination is? By the way, I picked out a few watches, along with shirts and suits. I'm taking them all with me, no problem, right? I scoffed and let out a soft cough. Hearing my voice, Leo visibly startled. Then, almost instinctively, he asked, Ethan Shaw, weren't you supposed to be in the hospital? In an instant, I had already figured out what was going on. Taking advantage of my mom's birthday party, Leo encouraged Zoe to stir up trouble. My mom has a heart condition. If things got too rowdy and made her unwell, I'd have to take her to the hospital. Then, Zoe could seize the chance to take her away along with the valuable items in my room. The fury I had barely suppressed roared back to life with renewed intensity. Mr. Carter, if you dare take even a single thing from my house today, I'll sue you for breaking and entering, I said icily. Leo froze momentarily before protesting. Mr. Shao, I was just looking. Zoe rushed over, positioning herself protectively in front of Leo, and cried out, Ethan Shao, what are you doing? I swear if you give Leo any trouble, I'll. I couldn't be bothered with Zoe and shouted, someone, strip Leo of everything that belongs to me. Several of my family's bodyguards rushed toward him. That guy really knew how to pick. He'd chosen my Rolex and Patek Philippe watches, along with a few gold ones. The most ironic part was that Leo had even swapped his underwear for mine. As the bodyguards pinned him down and started stripping him, I called out from the side, don't hurt the man himself, just take back what isn't his. Zoe, seeing me bully her beloved, grew so frantic she couldn't stop screaming curses. You lackeys, you bold-faced servants, I'll report you all, stop it right now. Ethan Shaw, you, tell them to stop. Zoe, leave all your jewelry too, I said. Bracelets, necklaces, earrings, everything. The jade bracelet on Zoe's wrist was one I personally selected for her 20th birthday, a piece worth over $300,000. Those earrings are pink diamonds, large carat pink diamonds, valued at $150,000. As for the necklace, though it's just a simple strand of South Sea white pearls, every bead is flawlessly round like tiny light bulbs. Such a piece would fetch at least $15,000 on the market. Oh, and those LV shoes you're wearing, since you're a woman, I'll let you keep your dignity by leaving fully clothed, I said with a cold snort. Leo was left wearing only his underwear, frantically trying to put his original clothes back on. Still, he didn't forget to threaten me. Shao, this is personal assault, an insult to my dignity. I'll sue you. Go ahead, I replied. My house has surveillance. You came here attempting theft, and I'm preparing to sue as well. You're lying, Zoe quickly interjected. Leo just tried on your clothes, so what? You had your damn lackey beat him up, that's assault. This time, I didn't even glance at Zoe as I shouted, Mrs. Peterson, send them downstairs to wait. I'll give Zoe her birth certificate and personal documents so she can register her marriage with her true love. Watching Zoe walk barefoot out of my Shao family home without looking back, holding her personal documents and dragging Leo along, I took a deep breath. The air coiled in my lungs, and there was a faint pain where my heart should be. Mrs. Peterson looked worried and whispered, Young master, she took her birth certificate, and she's always carried her ID with her. This means she can register her marriage with that man. Once they're officially married, it'll be serious trouble. Everyone must take responsibility for their own actions, I said. I intentionally gave those documents to her. Mrs. Peterson understood my meaning. Once she and Leo got that marriage certificate, there would be no turning back. This earthly world would become her personal hell. A woman who deliberately triggered my mother's illness, even wanted her dead, no longer deserved my protection. Yet, the very next day, Zoe called me, endlessly hurling accusations. Ethan Shaw, what gives you the right to cancel my credit card? Who do you think you are? I'll have you know, I'm 21 years old now. You have no right to control my money. I don't know why, but I suddenly burst out laughing. So Zoe, you do realize you're 21 now, a full-grown adult, I said coldly. I cancelled my supplementary card, not yours. 5. Zoe's voice came through the phone again. Ethan Shaw, you'd better reinstate my credit card immediately. I'm getting married and need to buy a lot of things, do you understand? I know exactly what you're doing, using money to blackmail me into coming back. Keeping me obediently by your side, such a despicable trick. Listen, I won't ever like you. Leo is my true love. When Zoe said those final words over the phone, there was a hint of smugness in her tone. Even, faintly, a whiff of threat. Only after careful consideration did it finally dawn on me. Yes, for these 7 years, I've always held her in the palm of my hand, spoiling and doting on her, which is why she's become this lawless. So, she thinks she can easily manipulate me? And all I've done is simply out of jealousy. Zoe, first, you need to understand one thing. For these 7 years in the Shao family, you've been eating mine, using mine, wearing mine. Now, since you're getting married, of course I won't continue being this foolish benefactor by giving you money anymore. Don't bother me unless it's important. I'm someone who disgusts you. With that, I hung up the phone. Then, the private investigator I hired proved exceptionally efficient. Just yesterday, he had only managed to trace Leo's background. Today, he already delivered new intelligence to me. Looking at the information transmitted to my phone, I carefully considered it before instructing my assistant to prepare the relevant materials. Just as I had expected, 3 days later, Zoe brought Leo's family to my house. Leo's mother was a corpulent old woman dressed in bright red clothes, her face slathered in cheap foundation. Alas, the pasty white foundation couldn't conceal her sallow, rough skin. Her knuckles were prominent and thick, unmistakably the hands of someone who'd done hard manual labor for years. As for Leo's father, he had shifty eyes and a furtive appearance, with his clothes draped casually over his shoulders. The moment he stepped into our living room, his eyes darted around as if sizing up the place for a robbery. I sat on the living room couch, sizing them up with a critical eye. Apparently annoyed by my scrutiny, Leo's mother plopped down on the sofa opposite me, hiking up her thick legs in a haughty posture that reeked of arrogance. "Let me handle this, Zoe," Leo's mother said. Zoe glanced at me and nodded. "Ethan Shaw, right?" Leo's mother screeched. "Don't your family have any manners? Didn't your mother teach you anything? When guests come over, you're supposed to serve tea and snacks. You're not my guest. You don't deserve it, so don't flatter yourself," I said mildly, as if discussing the weather. Leo's mother clearly hadn't expected me to clap back so directly, and froze for a moment. Then she muttered under her breath, "Rich people are so stingy." I said, "If you've got something to say, say it. Otherwise, get out. This isn't a place for someone like you." I repeated the phrase "not for someone like you" twice, and Zoe couldn't help but shout, "Ethan Shao, people should be equal. I never realized before how ill-mannered you are. In the future, you won't even deserve to stand here." I truly felt chilled to the bone. "Listen, Shao," they continued, "we didn't want to come to you either. But back then, Zoe was young, and her mother had to bring her to seek refuge with your family. Now that she's grown up, shouldn't you return her family's belongings to her?" Leo's mother said, raising her chin defiantly. "Just as I suspected." I turned to Zoe and asked, "Zoe, are you here to collect what your mother brought to my house too?" "That's right," Zoe said angrily. "Our family originally had money too: property, stocks, bank deposits, and so on. You'd better return them to me now. And what's the idea behind freezing my credit card?" "Ethan Shaw, I'm telling you, if you don't return our family's property, I'll sue you." I nodded slightly and said, "Since you're already married, your belongings should indeed be returned to you." 6. I spoke. I had Mrs. Peterson bring over the materials that had been prepared earlier in the morning. As Mrs. Peterson held a small sandalwood box in her hands, the greed shining in the eyes of the Leo family could no longer be concealed. I opened the box, pulled out a stack of documents from inside, and said, "Zoe, when your mother brought you to seek refuge at my place back then, aside from you, there was also $1 million debt. I mentioned it the other day. My debts were cleared years ago. But since you're married now, married to Leo, I'd appreciate it if Mr. Carter could help Zoe return this money to me. Also, here's a record of Zoe's living expenses during her 7 years with the Shao family. Mr. Carter, I'll need you to settle the bill with me. Zoe is neither kin nor kith to our family, yet she's lived and eaten under our roof for 7 years. There's no reason we should just let it go at that. All the documents and evidence are here. If you refuse to hand it over, I will take legal action to reclaim the legitimate rights that rightfully belong to me." This outcome was utterly contrary to the expectations of Leo's family. Leo had originally assumed that Zoe, clad in designer brands and adorned with jewelry worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, must be the daughter of a wealthy family. So, he went all out in pursuit, flirted recklessly, and meticulously orchestrated a grand romantic deception. He even managed to gaslight her along the way, especially after learning that Zoe was an orphan living under my roof. He naively believed that by marrying Zoe, he could rightfully take over her family's assets, achieve a class leap, and thus spare himself a lifetime of hard work. As a result, now her family only has $1 million in debt. I watched as the expressions on Leo's family's faces became truly spectacular. I slowly sipped my tea and said, "The lawyer I hired will be here soon, Mr. Carter. If you're short on money, that's fine too, just write me an IOU with interest matching the bank mortgage rate. I won't take advantage of you." Leo's face turned livid with rage. In the blink of an eye, Leo's mother sprang to her feet and unexpectedly slapped Zoe across the face without warning. "Tell me, is what he said true?" Leo's mother spat her words at Zoe, close enough for her saliva to land on Zoe's face. Even standing 2 or 3 steps away, I could smell the stench emanating from her. How could Zoe stand her? "Love, does it truly drive people out of their minds?" Zoe's fair face instantly turned purple and swollen from the slap. Covering her cheek, she cried out, "Mom, why did you hit me?" "Hit you?" Leo's mother scolded. "I only let you into our house because I thought you little bitch were rich. Turns out it was all an act? Let me ask you, is what this Shao fellow said true or not?" Zoe timidly glanced at me. "Mrs. Carter, if you want to hit someone, do it back at your own place, not in my home," I said coldly. "Every word I've said is true, and I have plenty of evidence to prove the debt her family owed years ago." Why did Zoe's father die so young? It was because he was drowning in debt and couldn't bear the burden anymore. He jumped off a building to end his life. Zoe knew bits and pieces about her family's affairs, but she was only 15 at the time, and her mother had always kept it from her. I have no idea how she got the mistaken impression that her family was wealthy. Or rather, it was Leo who naively assumed that because she wore gold and silver, draped in luxury brand names, her family must have been rich. My lawyer arrived with legal documents, demanding not just the $1 million Leo and Zoe originally owed her family. In addition, there were Zoe's living expenses, tuition, and daily costs over the years, totaling $900,000. Leo was dumbfounded. This farce dragged on in my house for over an hour. In the end, Leo also slapped Zoe hard enough to split her lip, sending blood streaming down. Mrs. Peterson seemed somewhat appalled and tried to intervene, but I stopped her, because this is Zoe's true love. Her cheeks were swollen on both sides, tears welling up in her eyes as she looked at me and asked, "Ethan Shao, are you satisfied now? You did this on purpose, didn't you?" "Zoe, what nonsense are you talking about?" I replied cheerfully. "This is the love your true love has given you, overflowing on your face. How wonderful. You should savor it carefully. Don't let Mr. Carter's affection go to waste. If you had let me take my things, how could Leo have hit me?" Zoe said. "You deliberately ruined our relationship. You have so many clothes, so many watches, would it really hurt you to give him a few? You rich people are heartless." "Leo's right, you wealthy folks are so fathead you couldn't care less about the poor. Can't you just help us out?" My lawyer was utterly dumbstruck hearing such nonsense. Both Mrs. Peterson and I froze like statues once again. Leo had already marched into my yard. After waiting impatiently with no sign of Zoe appearing, he started cursing outside. "You dead in there or what? Get your ass out here." Zoe didn't have time to say anything and hurried out. I deliberately walked into the courtyard before speaking. "Mrs. Peterson, dispose of the sofa that the Carters sat on and disinfect the living room. Let's not have these people over again." The look of contempt was unmistakable. Leo turned around, clenched his fist at me, and said, "Shao, you dare look down on me?" "That's right, I do look down on you," I said softly. "Take a good look at what kind of trash you are. You've really dirted my place." I genuinely looked down on Leo. He's nothing but trash trying to climb the social ladder through women. After Leo's family left with Zoe, I let out a soft sigh. Mrs. Peterson wore a worried expression. Knowing her concerns, I quickly reassured her with a few words. "How could Zoe have turned out like this?" Mrs. Peterson said. "She probably takes after her mother," I said. "Blinded by love." I'd heard from my mom that Zoe's family used to be wealthy too. Her mother was the only daughter who cried and made a scene insisting on marrying a penniless painter. My mom, as her best friend, had tried to talk her out of it, but she ended up getting scolded instead. They lost contact for a while, until her family went bankrupt. With nowhere left to turn, her mother brought Zoe to seek refuge with my mom. Mrs. Peterson asked me, was I really going to stand by and watch Zoe throw herself into the fire without doing anything? I shook my head and told Mrs. Peterson that Zoe and Leo had already slept together and even obtained their marriage certificate. If Zoe comes to her senses, divorces him, returns to apologize to my mother and to Mrs. Peterson, I can arrange for her to study abroad and eventually find a better match. But if she remains so stubborn, digging her own grave, then let her be. Mrs. Peterson, you must understand, that was her true love. Quite ironic. As a man, while I consider myself broad-minded, I still can't completely let it go without any resentment. Especially after Leo learned about my mother's heart condition, he manipulated Zoe using her illness to come and cause trouble at my house. It really disgusts me, and I can't help but resent it, because as everyone knows, with heart disease, there's a chance it could be fatal on the spot. So I had my lawyer start giving Zoe trouble. She's an adult now after all. She's married, has her own family, and needs to pay back what she owes me. Of course, I also hired some private investigators to keep an eye on Leo's family. I had no choice. After learning about Leo's wolfish ambitions, I couldn't help but worry. Zoe did live with our family for 7 years and knows too many of my private affairs. She's currently blinded by love, and heaven knows whether Leo might exploit this to make her act outrageously again. My mother got hurt. Then, after returning from my place that day, when the Leos didn't get the money they demanded from our family, Zoe suffered a brutal beating from both Leo and his mother. Zoe originally attended an elite school, but the Leos didn't let her continue there. After all, the monthly living expenses were far beyond what the Leo household could afford. Of course, Leo's family wouldn't let Zoe idle around at home either. So, with a sudden inspiration, Leo's mother decided to take Zoe along to sell vegetables at a street stall. Poor Zoe, who had been pampered since childhood, how could she endure such hardship? Add to that her shyness. She had no clue how to hawk goods. In the beginning, she often couldn't even sell a single bunch of green onions. Behind Leo's back, his mother began beating Zoe. Afraid that visible injuries might draw attention, she used a belt to lash hidden parts of Zoe's body. The detective told me, and I couldn't help but sigh. After a week passed like this, Zoe first called my mother. But my mother didn't answer her call and conveniently blocked her number. So she called me again. "Ethan, lend me some money," Zoe said. "Oh," I asked with a laugh. "How much do you need?" $5,000. Zoe said hurriedly. "Ethan, she hits me and scolds me every day, says I can't do business. But I'm really trying to learn how to run a business. Lend me some money, and she won't hit me anymore. Leo will love me again." I sighed. I really don't know how Leo managed to do it. As if Zoe had been drugged? So I said directly, Mrs. Carter, you'd better think about how to pay me back the money you owe me. Ethan Shaw, how could you be like this? Is money all you care about? Zoe immediately flew into a rage and started shouting. I hung up the phone. That evening, I had my driver Kevin take me to a farmer's market near Leo's place. 9. I stared at the dirty woman squatting at the stall on the ground, barely able to believe this was Zoe. Born with a silver spoon in her mouth, Zoe had never soiled her delicate hands with menial labor. Now clad in shabby, ill-fitting bargain clothes, she squats by the roadside stall selling sweet potatoes and corn. From 7 to 10 p.m., in 3 excruciating hours, she sold just 1 sweet potato and had 2 corn stolen right under her nose. Customers hurled cruel insults at her. A group of local hoodlums, drawn by her beauty, began making lewd advances and groping her. It was past 10 in the evening, and there weren't many people left on the roadside. I'd been sitting in the car for quite a while, planning to grab a coffee from the mall nearby before heading back. I just came by after hearing what the detective said, wanted to see how Zoe was selling sweet potatoes and vegetables. Had my look, and that was that. After all, this was the path she chose for herself, her kind of love. Then, somehow Zoe spotted me. She rushed over recklessly and blocked my way. Ethan Shaw, give me some money, I don't want much, just 10,000. Ah, 10,000 isn't enough. Give me 50. Ethan Shaw, back when you used to buy me jewelry, it was always hundreds of thousands at a time. What's wrong with giving me a little money now? Why are you so stingy? I looked at her mud-stained hands with cracked wounds, the faint crimson streaks of blood. I took a step back, with the driver Kevin hastily moving to shield me. At that very moment, Leo's mother suddenly emerged from some corner and slapped Zoe across the face, yelling, I told you to sell vegetables, yet here you are flirting around outside again? Disgraceful! How could my son Leo be so blind as to end up with a useless woman like you? Never a day goes by without you causing trouble. I'll beat you to death. Beat you to death. Leo's mother swung her arm at Zoe while talking. Zoe kept retreating and fleeing under her blows, crying out, Mom, I didn't. You see a man and can't keep yourself in check? Leo's mother began to scold, cursing in the vilest terms. I am like a passing stranger, simply watching, devoid of joy or sorrow. Under the punches and kicks of Leo's mother, accompanied by her incessant cursing, Zoe loaded the sweet potatoes and corn onto the handcart. Then, Leo's mother, who weighed nearly 200 pounds, also sat down on the handcart. Zoe strained to push the cart, trudging laboriously toward Leo's house, arduously climbing toward her love. Leo's mother held a bundle of rope in her hand, lashing it against Zoe's back from time to time. Just like whipping a beast. Kevin nearly couldn't hold back from interfering in this unwanted business. But reason tells us we can't help her. 10. From that day onward, I never went to see Zoe again, gathering all my scattered thoughts. Yet the detective, having taken my money, worked diligently, frequently informing me that Zoe had been beaten again. I knew her days were spent either enduring beatings or on the path toward the next one. Her entire body was covered in wounds, layer upon layer of fresh injuries over old scars. Leo had originally pinned his hopes of making a fortune on her. Now that those dreams of wealth had evaporated, he unleashed his full fury upon her. Zoe's life had become unbearable. Day after day of grueling labor, punctuated by beatings from Leo's entire family. 2 months later, the detective informed me that Zoe was pregnant, confirmed by medical tests. Hearing this news, I fell silent. After thinking it over all night, I told the detective to stop tailing them, there was no point anymore. A week later, I unexpectedly received a call from Leo. Mr. Shao, let's talk. I know you still can't forget Zoe. What do you want to discuss? I asked. I'll give Zoe back to you, if you give me $500,000. Deal? Mr. Shao, I've done my research. You've got over a dozen listed companies under the Shao conglomerate, wealth beyond measure. $50 million must be like a drop in the bucket for you. I smiled faintly and replied, you're absolutely right. 50 million is indeed a mere drop in the bucket, hardly worth mentioning. In the past, I'd casually spend a few million on jewelry for Zoe without a second thought. On the phone, Leo chuckled delightedly and said, Mr. Shao, so you agree? Don't worry, I'll make sure Zoe returns today. I sneered and said, Mr. Carter, the Shao family only deals in legitimate business, we've never engaged in human trafficking. What you're doing is extortion, and I've already recorded this conversation. Oof. With that, I hung up directly and blocked his number, or rather, Zoe's number, because he had called using Zoe's phone. This man named Leo truly disgusted me. Taking advantage of Zoe's naivety to manipulate her, then crashing my mother's birthday party at my house, nearly giving her a heart attack. And now, with Zoe pregnant, sending her to my home? What kind of surrogacy scam are you trying to pull here? As for the next 2 months, I traveled abroad. Business went smoothly, but with a vast empire to manage and endless affairs to handle, Zoe gradually faded from my mind. Within our circle, people have already started trying to set me up on dates one after another. I turned them all down. I don't know why, but these past few days I've constantly felt restless. On Christmas night, while home alone, I unexpectedly received a call from an unknown number. Thinking it was a wrong number, I didn't answer the first call, but then it immediately rang again. Reluctantly, I answered the call, ready to tell him to check the number carefully next time before dialing. But as soon as the call connected, I heard Zoe's slightly hysterical laughter. "Ethan, Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday." "Yes, my birthday falls on Christmas Day." I was about to hang up. Just then, Zoe's dreamlike chuckle came through the phone. "Ethan, I killed them all." "Wonderful, they're all dead." "I'm telling you, I didn't just learn how to sell vegetables, I learned how to sell meat too, wielding a cleaver, chopping again and again. Rat poison works wonders. Though not strong enough to kill, it's perfect for keeping them unconscious. I took the knife and chopped, again and again, just like butchering pork, such fun. It was a bit bloody, first time and all. Lack of experience, but tidy up a bit and it's fine. I jumped in fright and cried, "Zoe, what have you done? Who did you kill?" "Leo, and his old mother, and that old beast. Now, I'm going to kill that little beast too." I shouted urgently, "Zoe, don't do anything stupid. I'm coming right now." But immediately after, through my phone, I heard the deafening sound of an explosion and then, "Happy birthday," I shouted as I rushed downstairs, yelling for Kevin to bring the car around while calling the police. By the time we arrived at Rio's house, the building had already turned into a sea of flames. The raging flames consumed the sins of the world, illuminating the darkened sky. According to police investigations, the Leo family of 3 fell into a coma after being poisoned, and were then hacked to death with a knife by Zoe. All 3 victims sustained countless stab wounds and were dismembered. After killing them, Zoe turned on the gas to start a fire, which subsequently triggered an explosion. To the police's great frustration, Leo's severed head was never found at the crime scene, but it was several days later when she was found in the septic tank. The police learned from interviews with Leo's neighbors that the family had abused Zoe in extremely cruel ways. One time, Leo tied Zoe up with a rope and whipped her with a belt for half the night. Only after a neighbor couldn't bear to watch and called the police did they finally take her down. Others said Leo's father had repeatedly tried to rape Zoe, and when she refused, he beat her. It's truly filthy. 11. I handled Zoe's funeral arrangements and buried her ashes beside her mother's grave. On the day of the burial, I placed a bouquet of sunflowers in front of her tombstone. May she learn to distinguish right from wrong in her next life, and understand the deceitful nature of human hearts. Don't blindly fall into love's trap. As for me, I don't know what to say. If Zoe truly didn't love me and sought love elsewhere, I would naturally wish her happiness. Yet she couldn't let me go, even in death. On my birthday, after slaughtering Leo's entire family, she called me and made me listen to the sound of the explosion that took her life. And that, happy birthday. Every year since, on my birthday, I am inevitably haunted by the memory of her. Even if I've moved on in my heart. Youth without regrets, but love led to ruin. The end.